Dude is very structured. He gives us detailed news and updates, benchmark tests, and tutorials, all while having a normal and full life outside of it all. Couldn't be me. He's absolutely the GOAT of one-take videos. Nah, it's called having a job and a routine. Absolute mastery of time management. His children could be growing without a father figure and you wouldn't know it. If this is the case, hopefully when they'll grow up, they will understand. It was for the greater good. Oh man, that one got me because at first I was like, hey guys, there's not growing up without a father figure. And then I was like, it was for the greater. Okay, so on a lot of my videos, I don't know, people seem to be fascinated by the fact that I both teach full-time and do YouTube, on top of having a family. And, well, this take was a little more on the funny side of things. It's interesting because usually when somebody comments how impressed they are about it, there's always somebody commenting like, this dude must just like abandon his children and like... Anyway, but at least it was for the greater good. Anyway, so... the new school year is starting, which means that I am going to have less time to work on the channel. That doesn't necessarily mean I will work less on the channel, because I'll be honest, during summers off from teaching, I don't necessarily spend more time on the channel. It is more about having some vacation time, etc. But I certainly need to be a lot more structured with my time, plan ahead, all of that. And I have also been getting some comments asking, so with the new school year starting up, does that mean they should expect me to produce fewer videos on the channel, etc.? So I figure maybe I should post a little bit of a channel update and maybe answer some of these questions, because a lot of people just don't seem to see how it's possible to do both things at the same time. So, maybe we'll start out with the question, so am I gonna be posting less content because the school year is starting? And the answer is, whether or not there's more or less content actually has probably not a lot to do with whether the school year is on or off. How easy it is for me to make content really just depends on things that are mostly outside of my control, which has a lot more to do with, are there new graphics cards coming out? The answer right now is probably not until either the end of 2025 or the beginning of 2026, where it is heavily rumored, but still not officially announced, that we'll be getting a super series of cards, at least for the 5070 and up range, although there's no rumored 5090 super, but like 5070 Ti super, 5080 super, 5070 super. So those are probably gonna give me a lot of work to do. I would guess somewhere around, hopefully, winter break. Usually, I kind of hope that, a new graphics card launch coincides roughly with that break, because I do get 2 weeks off of school. So the idea is, even if the graphics cards themselves don't launch right during that window, when you're preparing for a graphics card review, you need to retest all, at least I hope other people, I'm sure all the good review outlets are retesting the cards that they're gonna be pitting it up against when they rank them, because you don't want to use out-of-date information. Old drivers, if games that you test have been updated, you want to be on the latest game updates. Otherwise, you could throw off your results, right? So I'll at least want to be re-benchmarking all of my graphics cards that would be reasonable to pit against the new Super Series cards. So we'd be looking at upper-end stuff. So in other words, I'll probably be retesting cards like the 5090, 5080, 5070 Ti, 5070, stuff in that kind of range. That would probably make sense to also retest cards like the 9070 and 9070 XT. And by far, as far as what takes me the most time to do on the channel is benchmarking. Benchmarking takes a enormous amount of time, especially when you do the huge numbers of tests that I do in some of my videos. I try to focus on maybe not a ridiculous number of games, usually in the ballpark of 10, sometimes a couple more, sometimes a couple less, but I test out multiple graphics settings ranges, especially if you're talking about GPUs where you might run into VRAM issues, where it might make sense to test out, medium settings, not just ultra settings. And I also like to test out native resolution, but I also think that, honestly, the majority of people, even if you don't personally, the majority of people are probably using things like DLSS, and if you're on the newer AMD cards, FSR4. So I like to test that stuff out as well. So when you start testing a game at like 1080p, 1440p, and 4K, at ultra settings, as well as medium settings, and then at a DLSS setting at each resolution, suddenly you're running a massive number of tests on every single game, on every single graphics card. It's just an incredible amount of time. So the one thing that is challenging to fit into my schedule while teaching is running all of that benchmarking. But, let's talk about some of the ways that I manage to make this work. I mean, one thing that I do is you'll notice that like a lot of the bigger graphics card reviewers, Hardware Unbox, Gamers Nexus, etc. They're gonna do like one major review piece of content when a new graphics card launches for that graphics card, right? And they're gonna have a whole bunch of graphics cards in that content. I try to complement that by not just doing the same thing. My channel's, growing, but, when I started out just a few years ago, there was no point trying to replicate the work that bigger channels were already doing. And also, there was no point being late to the party, because until I started getting review samples to where I could actually start working on the review before the card launches and then publish it at the same time as everybody else, my reviews would be coming out after I had the time to buy the graphics card. So what can I add to the conversation that is complementary to the bar charts with lots of GPUs on it style of review? Especially those ones are generally native resolution and usually only at one graphic setting, oftentimes the ultra settings. So what I kind of started doing on my channel was more of those side-by-side comparisons where I'm pitting 2 or maybe 3, only extremely occasionally 4 graphics cards in the same video, but it's more focused directly on 2 cards that you might be interested in buying. Like, these are the 2 in my price range. I want all of the details, every little piece of, what you might want in this comparison. What is it like to actually use it? What do the frame time graphs look like? What kind of different graphic settings could I use, etc. So I kind of focus in on that because I think it's complementary, not just trying to replicate stuff that other, big review channels are doing. So what I'm trying to get at in a long roundabout way is that because I'm only pairing, 2 or 3 graphics cards in the same video, suddenly the same amount of benchmarking that I would do. So if I do this massive amount of work on these 2 graphics cards, then I put them head to head, and I get one video out of that, it's honestly just not sustainable. But let's bring in some math here. You may or may not have learned about combinations. So that's where if I have, let's say that I retested, 10 graphics cards, and there might be various reasons to pair all of them up. And in that case, I would be doing 10 choose 2, or how many combinations of 2 GPUs chosen from 10 can I make a video out of that same amount of benchmarking? Does that make sense? So I test 10 GPUs, but I don't just make one video. I pair up these 2, because, okay, these, AMD versus NVIDIA at roughly the same price, but then how about previous generation, what does the upgrade look like? Or how about current generation, 5070 versus 5070 Ti? Is it worth spending the extra money? So I can investigate all of those in great detail, which isn't just repetitive content, because again, it's focused on that exact comparison. People really thinking about buying these cards will be having that question. How do these specifically get at? Whereas the bigger GPU review videos have the advantage of having more cards in them, but they can't spend as much time dedicated to as much about the 2 particular GPUs you might be considering, right? But that allows me to make more videos out of the same amount of benchmark testing, if that makes sense. So that is one of the tricks, if I have one, about making this work, right? I need to be able to get a lot of videos out of that time I invested in that benchmarking. Because if I only got one video out of it, completely unsustainable if I'm trying to work a whole entire teaching job full time on top of that. So now I was also talking about, so what about the amount of videos that'll be put out on the channel. So one thing where I can put out a lot of videos is when there's new graphics cards coming out that I can benchmark and test out, right? But there's also new games. So one thing I like to do on the channel is test out when a new game comes out that either I'm interested in personally or I expect my viewers to potentially be interested in. I will buy that game and play it on a number of graphics cards, but not just graphics cards. I also like to try out older CPUs, see how it performs on CPUs, because I think for a lot of times, graphics card reviews are really focused on, especially the big bar chart style, you're like, this GPU is this much faster than that one, or they offer this many frames per dollar. But what you can answer sometimes is the question that people actually are wondering is, how will this GPU perform in this game? Because I'm interested in this game, what will my experience actually be like? So I'll like to do those what is the experience playing this game on a variety of common hardware conversations, and both CPUs and GPUs, because again, it's good when you're doing a GPU review to isolate the GPU performance by sticking in the fastest possible CPU. But somebody might not have the fastest possible CPU. So when you're looking at the experience of playing a game on those hardware combinations, that's another thing. So now again, I'm at the mercy of, are any interesting games actually coming out? But when they are, I can do videos about them. Also, while testing out the game takes quite a while, it's still usually something I can get done in a few hours, depending on how many different pieces of hardware I'm putting in there and whatnot. Whereas I also like to do system requirements videos. Those can be shot in one take. It takes less than an hour to produce, right? So there's the huge benchmarking content, takes massive amounts of time. There's testing out games that launch that take a good amount of time, definitely several hours at least. And then there's system requirements coverage where it takes probably less than an hour to produce the entire video. And then there's the news videos, right? So the news videos are, again, how many of them can I produce? Well, if there's new interesting information coming out every single day, I could make a news video every single day. But that's usually not the case. But generally, at least once a week, I've at least rounded up enough topics to fill out a news roundup video. But I don't have any set schedule on that, right? It's however much time it takes to produce. Now, here's the thing where how do I manage the efficiency with all of this? Since the news videos, guys, I know some of you guys haven't been around on the channel since I started it 5 years ago. I started this in October of 2020 with the whole pandemic thing. It's kind of a pandemic project. Didn't think anybody would watch the videos, but hey, here we are. Anyway, but I started out with a daily news topic because I was already just in my free time, because I'm interested in it, reading all of the various tech news websites, right? So what I started to do when I began the channel was basically I would read all the news that I was going to read that day anyway. This wasn't something new, additional work I was doing for the channel. This is the kind of thing I do when I'm scrolling my phone, right? How much time do you waste scrolling your phone? The kind of thing I do is scroll tech news sites and subreddits. Okay, that's what I do. Now, what I would do is I would just pick whatever was most interesting to me that I read that day, and I would make a short video talking about it. Here's an interesting news topic today. Here's my thoughts on it. And that was really how I started the channel. I posted a video every single day on just whatever popped out to me that day on news. And then I started, interesting games coming out. I would talk about those, and then I'd test them out when they came out. And that's kind of, the channel just built out what it was. And as it eventually started making money, I would buy graphics cards, so I'd have more that I could test out. And things kind of grew from there, right? But still, that same mindset is still what I'm doing here, which is I'm already reading all of the latest tech news. What I actually do is I just save those in browser tabs. And if there's topics that sort of flow together, I don't write scripts. Another way I save a huge amount of time is I don't write scripts. Now, I think a lot of people enjoy the conversational tone that comes from that. Probably feels more like a podcast style, more so than a lot of videos do. Whereas I know some people are probably just irritated because if I wrote a script and had a lot of editing, I could probably condense the same amount of information into a shorter video. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I think some people enjoy the conversational tone, but really also part of that is it's a time thing, right? Like so I don't write a script. I organize my browser tabs throughout the day as I'm reading them, or throughout the week if I'm not ready to do a video yet. I'm just organizing browser tabs as interesting news topics that are probably worth talking about in a video at some point, and then kind of grouping them by what feels like a nice order to discuss the video in. Probably starting with whatever's the most interesting, and then conversations kind of flow on from there. Because if I'm like, here's the latest NVIDIA news, I might follow it up with anything new from AMD. How about Intel? What now? Right? So it kind of flows. And again, so I save time when I don't write scripts, and I would have been scrolling these types of sites anyway in my free time, but I'm just also effectively researching and preparing for the video as I do that. Once there's enough browser tabs and interesting topics, I just flip on the camera and start talking, right? Post the video. And you'll notice that my news style videos generally are zero editing. It's one take, no editing, no script. And that's a huge reason why I'm able to do this. I think that's why we get these comments. He's absolutely the GOAT of one take videos. Unmatched. Is IME in my estimation? I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys. Like the compliments. But yeah, so that's a huge part of what it is a lot of my videos, like, a lot of people, I think, if you just watch YouTube videos and haven't tried making them yourself, you have no idea how much time editing takes. And then there's the rendering process. Once you've edited a video, you have to render it, then you have to upload that, etc. So a video, like I'm making this one right now, I literally just loaded up this comment and started talking. There's no plan. Guys, I'm just talking at you right now. And then my news videos would have more, focus to it, right? But I'm just talking, and then I'm gonna stop recording, and I'm gonna upload this. And I'm not planning on doing any editing to it, right? So the entire time invested in this, and then how am I gonna make my thumbnail? I'm probably gonna make some silly faces at the camera live on this video stream with OBS, after I've recorded the actual video I'm uploading. And then I'll find one that looks good, screenshot that, and then take a few minutes to edit something really quick. I should probably spend more time on thumbnails. I don't. Anyway, and there we go, upload the video, there it is. Right, what I'm trying to get at here, though, is that if you take the time to write a script, then you read the script, you might make mistakes, you edit those out. I don't edit out mistakes, so just go, sorry guys, I can't speak right now, let's try that again, right? My kids stomp around upstairs, we just keep rolling. By not doing all of that scripting and editing, it saves a huge amount of time. Now, if you feel like I'm wasting your time because it all could have been more concisely edited down and whatever, okay, but the truth is, I do this channel for fun. So I don't enjoy writing scripts. I've actually never written a script. I think I've made over 1,000 videos now. Not a single one had a script. So I don't make scripts. I don't like making scripts. That's not enjoyable to me. I don't really like editing videos either, so I generally don't. Most of the editing that I do is when I'm editing together side-by-side footage for benchmark videos. But that's really editing that goes in ahead of time, and then I film myself talking about all of that, again, unscripted and unedited. So that's a huge part of how I make that work. So by not even opening an editing program, it means that the time it took me to make the video is literally the length of the video. That was it. Other than, like I said, any prep that was done beforehand, which for my benchmarking videos is a huge amount of time. But for a news video or a random topic video like this is very little, okay? Because the news videos, like I said, while that may have been hours of scrolling sites, that's just the kind of random scrolling I do on my phone anyway. And let's be honest, people, how much time do you spend randomly scrolling various websites or social media? It's probably quite a bit. I don't do that. Generally, anything I'm scrolling is stuff that is just research, right? But it's literally, that's what I was doing anyway. That was already just my personality. So that's the other thing about this is, like, I think some people are surprised I'm still teaching and doing the YouTube channel and how do I do all of that and whatever. A huge part of it is the fact that, so I started this channel for fun. I never expected it to get a lot of viewers, and I never expected it to make any money. The fact that it does make money now, and significantly so, I could do YouTube as my job. I don't actually have to teach anymore. It's not like massively more than I make teaching. If I was willing to sell out to any random sponsor that offered me stuff, I could probably make more money than I do, but I try to be more selective about that, which means a lot of my videos don't have a sponsor slot. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. But the point is that, like, I feel like if I went full time on this, it would take all the fun out of it. I would be a lot more worried about making a video like this, because I have no idea if this is going to be like a highly viewed video because you guys care about this or me, or if like nobody's going to watch this. That would matter to me a lot if I was depending on this channel as my sole source of income. But when all of this is literally like, I've just avoided lifestyle creep. So like, I don't really spend much more money than I did when I was just teaching. The additional money I spend compared to when I was just teaching is really spending on things that buy me time, which I only need that time in order to be able to do the YouTube channel thing on top of the teaching. So I'm using some of the money I make on YouTube to buy me back some time. This is things like, be honest, guys, I don't mow my own lawn. I don't trim all the bushes. I did finally hire that out. I have a gardening service. Why do I do that? Because then I can run this channel, which makes more money than it costs to hire out the weekly gardening service. So there's things like that that are literally I'm paying for time, right? I'm paying for time with that. I moved to a different house. The house is more expensive than my last one, but not massively so once I sold the old house and put down the equity on this one. So my monthly payments aren't extremely higher than they were before, but this house, I can literally walk from where I'm filming this video now to the classroom that I teach in 2 minutes. If I ran, it could probably be 1 minute. I'm not kidding, it's that close. So again, that's investing the money I'm making off the channel to buy myself time. But I still drive the same car, I still, spend the same kind of spending habits, etc. And it's quite intentional. The extra money is mostly going into either buying things I need for the channel, because, NVIDIA didn't want to send out a lot of the latest graphics cards. Okay, I'll just buy them using money that I make off the channel, right? That kind of thing. The point is that, like, avoiding lifestyle creep means that I don't need the income from the channel, and I can invest on things that buy me time to allow me to better able to do the channel, and I don't need to stress out about it financially. And if I was only doing the YouTube channel, then I feel like I would be stressed out about it. I'd be in my basement by myself all the time. I like being out talking to people. I actually enjoy teaching for the most part. It has its ups and downs. But like, if I had to choose between the two today, right now, if you told me, like, Daniel, you can only do one, choose, I would actually still choose teaching over the YouTube stuff. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to quit YouTube and just teach. I'm planning on doing both. My plan would be, if it ever reaches a point where it feels like I can't do both, my current thinking is I'm going to just reduce the amount of time I spend on the YouTube channel. There's no plan to end either the teaching or the YouTube. It's just like, and I've already done that. When I started the channel, I mentioned I posted a video every single day. I came to a bit of a crisis a little over a year ago where I was kind of feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. And that's where I decided, you know what? I want to keep doing both, and I want to enjoy doing both. So how do I do that? It was allowing myself to do things like not post a video every single day, right? Take some of that pressure off and just just remind myself I don't need to care so much about this. Like not care about the channel, but not care about its performance. And it's like, how many views is each video getting? Just like, again, once I've locked in that, I'm just gonna keep teaching and that makes me the money that I can live off of, then everything else here it can be fun, right? So that's really where I'm at with all of this, is I've invested some of the money that I've made here in buying myself time back. I gave you a couple of examples of that. And like I said, I save a huge amount of time compared to, I think, most people who do YouTube on very little, if any, editing and no scripting whatsoever. That saves a lot of time. And then, like I said, there are some things that do just take a huge amount of time, and there's no way around that. Like I said, that's the benchmarking stuff. The benchmarking stuff, I have to fit it in where it makes sense. And now, generally, I block out parts of my day for uninterrupted family time. Phones put away, I'm involved with the kids, just taught them to ride bikes this last week without their training wheels on, all sorts of stuff. Like, there's time blocked out for family time no matter what. But generally, I try not to spend a huge amount of my weekends doing the YouTube stuff. However, if a new graphics card is launching, it's in the middle of the school year, there's no days off or anything like that, there are some weekends where I do have to just say, for this weekend, this is not typical, but this is just a special occasion. I'm going to be in the benchmark running, I'm going to be in the basement running benchmarks, like basically not sleeping for the entire weekend. And, that's the way it goes. And it allows me to keep up with the benchmarking stuff when there's no convenient holiday or break or anything like that around. Now, one advantage to that, though, is so when I'm filming a video, when I'm talking right now, my kids can't be interacting with me, right? But when I'm running benchmarks, that doesn't take a lot of thought. Once I've already determined which games I'm testing and what my benchmark pass is, and I'm running that same benchmark pass over and over and over and over and over. My daughter can be playing piano next to me, and I can still be telling her giving her feedback on that, paying attention. My kids will be playing Lego around me, and I can look at what they're building. I can honestly, if my kids are off doing their own thing, believe it or not, kids don't always want their dad's undivided attention. They want it a lot, but sometimes they do want to just play on their own, or they have friends over playing in another room, or their grandma comes over and visits a lot, and they like to play with her. That's actually what's happening right now while I film this video. I was reading to my kids for a couple of hours, and then grandma came over, and I slipped down here, and they're playing together up there. So it's finding the times, right, where it makes sense. But when I'm running the benchmarks and my kids don't need my attention, honestly, audiobooks. So I used to read a ton. So how do I fit all of this stuff in? Again, parts of it are, how do I find time to do my other hobbies? Because again, I started this channel as a hobby, so this is still my hobby time, right? But I have other hobbies. I like to read. To be honest, don't read a lot of physical books anymore, other than reading to my kids. And as they get older, I can actually start to read them books I'm actually enjoying, as opposed to the little kid books. So that's how I sneak in some reading. It's undivided kid attention, and I can read books I actually enjoy. But some books I enjoy are still not appropriate for my children. So I do audiobooks, and I can do audiobooks and podcasts, etc., while I'm benchmarking. So that's another huge thing, is the massive amount of benchmarking time I put in. I'm not actually bored when I'm doing that. I'm listening to stuff that I enjoy, and it's actually a bit of an excuse to binge some book series or podcast or something that I've been interested in while I'm benchmarking. That's also generally when I watch YouTube, because I don't watch a lot of YouTube just for enjoyment. Realistically, it's mostly research for the channel, keeping up with other people's benchmarks. Did they get the same thing I did? So that's usually playing on 2x speed in the background while I'm running a benchmark or something like that, that kind of thing. So a lot of it's that multitasking. Same thing, I used to spend one of my biggest hobbies was powerlifting. I'll be honest, all of my PRs, I am below my PRs, but I do have behind me over there a home gym, and I work out on that. So that was another thing. I used money that I made here to buy first of all, a house with a basement that can fit all of this, and then also the home gym equipment. So now I no longer have to go to the gym. And, honestly, my kids like to kind of do some exercises with me. So that can also be family time, and I can do it in between benchmarking and all of that. So in other words, no, I'm not abandoning my children are not growing up without a father figure. Even if it would be for the greater good, because then I could run more benchmarks. And no, I'm not superhuman. I am very structured, though. So the ones who says dude is very structured, that's really what it is. I have a structure to my time where I can. If I'm running benchmarks, there's a huge amount of multitasking happening there. And a lot of my own doom scrolling is literally research for GPU news videos and finding topics to talk about, and then just saving a lot of time on editing, etc. So I am not abandoning my family for doing the YouTube and the teaching at the same time. Now this year I'm a little nervous because I was also offered the math department leadership position at my math department at my school, and I did accept that. So that has some additional time commitment. So for some reason I was insane enough to accept that on top of everything else that I do, but we'll see how that goes, guys. Anyway, but I still anticipate News videos should still come out in a timely manner. New games come out, I should still be able to fit in a couple hours and get that tested out. And I still will be able to teach and block out good solid hours of uninterrupted family time in the evenings after school as well. And anyway, it's really hilarious reading comments like this, though, just you guys speculating on all of this and how is this all possible? Anyway, I hope you guys have an excellent day.